The movie, set in the bustling heart of Brazil, introduces us to the intricate dynamics of a restaurant's staff. The story primarily unfolds within the walls of this establishment, owned by Inazio, a man in his mid-30s whose manner radiates authority and self-centeredness. Inazio's primary concern is the success and reputation of his restaurant, often at the expense of the well-being and needs of his employees. Inazio's management style is both demanding and uncompromising, frequently requiring his staff to work extended hours, often late into the night, to ensure the restaurant operates flawlessly. This relentless work ethic creates a tense atmosphere among the employees, who find themselves in a constant state of frustration and exhaustion due to Inazio's insatiable demands. Among these employees is Sarah, a dedicated and hardworking waitress who approaches her job with a level of professionalism and grace that belies the challenging conditions under which she works. Despite the long hours and the demanding nature of her boss, Sarah, along with her colleagues, strives to maintain a high standard of service. They are the unsung heroes of the restaurant, serving customers with unwavering smiles and an enduring commitment to excellence, all while struggling to make ends meet in their personal lives. One particularly grueling evening, as the restaurant nears its closing time, Sarah encounters an aloof customer dining alone. After serving him, she returns to the counter, where Inazio is observing the scene. Inazio, in a rare moment of reflection, expresses pity for the solitary diner, but his comment only serves to remind Sarah and her colleagues of their impending release from the night's duties. As the night progresses, the toll of the grueling shift becomes increasingly evident on Sarah. Physical exhaustion sets in, her feet are sore, her back aches, and keeping her eyes open becomes a Herculean effort. Yet, despite these challenges, Sarah remains resolute. She is determined to persevere through the final hours of her shift, driven by the promise of rest and the comfort of her home, which awaits her at the end of this long and arduous night. The tension escalates as the evening progresses in a Brazilian restaurant. As the night wears on, the energy of the staff visibly diminishes, all except for Inazio, the restaurant's owner. Inazio mingles with the patrons, sharing with them his anticipation of a special guest arriving the next day, a journalist. He emphasizes the importance of this visit, instructing his team to pay meticulous attention to every detail, from the dining area to the bathroom. In a quiet moment, Inazio retreats to the restroom to rehearse his speech for the upcoming interview, a conversation he continues over the phone with his wife. When he emerges, he notices Jair, the main chef, casting a stern glance in his direction. Inazio chooses to ignore this and turns his attention to a new group of customers entering the restaurant. These newcomers, evidently a couple, are greeted by Sarah, who promptly takes their order. The chef, visibly annoyed by the late arrival of these guests, reluctantly accepts the order from Sarah. Meanwhile, Inazio engages in conversation with one of the new patrons, Veronica. They discuss various topics, including food and their favorite wines. During this exchange, it becomes apparent that Sarah and Veronica do not get along, but Sarah continues to serve them despite the tension. As the night draws closer to its curfew, an unexpected and harrowing event disrupts the calm of the restaurant. Two masked intruders suddenly burst in, wielding a gun and demanding money. The sudden intrusion paralyzes the patrons and staff with fear. One of the robbers aggressively grabs Veronica, handling her roughly and threateningly. His partner, however, attempts to defuse the situation, urging him to stay focused on their primary goal. In a startling turn of events, Inazio emerges, holding what appears to be a gun, and confronts the robbers, demanding their surrender. In the heat of the moment, he fires a shot, revealing that his weapon is nothing but a toy. However, the chaos has already escalated beyond control. The shot, although from a toy gun, inadvertently strikes one of the intruders, causing him to fall, writhing in pain from a wound in his belly. This unexpected twist intensifies the already tense atmosphere, plunging the restaurant into a state of turmoil and panic. Soon after, the unfolding events at a Brazilian restaurant take a dramatic turn, leaving both patrons and staff in a state of shock and apprehension. The unexpected outbreak of violence within the once tranquil setting throws everyone into a state of heightened anxiety as fear and uncertainty permeate the air. The serene atmosphere of the restaurant is replaced by a palpable tension as everyone struggles to come to terms with the harrowing situation unfolding around them. Amidst this chaos, a customer who had been quietly observing the staff, particularly Sarah, becomes increasingly interested in her. He is intrigued by her mysterious air and the purposeful way she navigates the restaurant. His attention is drawn to her interactions with Inazio, the restaurant owner, sensing that she may be involved in something significant. Motivated by curiosity and a desire to help, he decides to approach Sarah, hoping to gain her trust and offer his support. However, Sarah is not easily swayed. She is driven by her own objectives and understands that Inazio is crucial to her continued presence in the restaurant. Her plans are solely her own, and she is not looking to collaborate with outsiders. When the customer reveals his identity as a police officer, Sarah's suspicions are heightened, confirming her belief that he could not be trusted. Reacting swiftly, Sarah confronts Inazio, divulging everything she knows. Inazio listens intently, his expression growing increasingly stern as the story unfolds. Upon learning of the customer's profession as a cop, Inazio realizes the potential threat to his establishment. Without wasting a moment, he grabs some plastic and approaches the customer's table. Caught completely off guard, the customer can only watch in horror as Inazio binds him with the plastic, his eyes reflecting sheer terror. Inazio, showing no mercy, understands the gravity of the situation. He perceives the customer as a potential menace to his business and is determined to eliminate any risk. Inazio instructs Sarah to escort the bound customer to the kitchen, where he is to be kept with the others, further escalating the already tense and unpredictable situation within the restaurant. The dynamics within the Brazilian restaurant take a darker turn as the plot thickens. Following the intense events of the night, Sarah finds herself increasingly under the control of Inazio, the restaurant owner. She becomes similar to a puppet, complying with his every demand. Aware of the dire consequences of disobedience, particularly after witnessing the fate of the other captives in the kitchen, Sarah treads carefully. Inazio, consumed by suspicion, becomes convinced that 𝐂𝐤, his head chef, is the mastermind behind the robbery. His conviction is fueled by the recent odd behavior and intense stares he has noticed from 𝐂𝐤, leading him to believe that not all is as it seems. As time progresses, Inazio's paranoia intensifies. He scrutinizes everyone in the restaurant, including Sarah, with an eagle eye. However, Sarah is not only observant but also cunning. She expertly plays along with Inazio's demands, outwardly appearing submissive and compliant. Yet beneath this facade, she is calculating and strategizing, intent on uncovering the truth that lurks within the walls of the restaurant. Meanwhile, amidst the chaos, the captives are put into a single room, and efforts are made to tidy up the disrupted spaces. Victoria, another character in this intricate plot, requests to use the bathroom. Sarah obliges, taking her there. However, once inside, Victoria insists on privacy, prompting Sarah to leave. During this time, Sarah and Inazio engage in a conversation outside. The tranquility is abruptly broken by a noise emerging from the bathroom. Sarah, responding to the sound, opens the door for Victoria. In a twist of events, Victoria, having freed herself from her restraints, seizes this moment to attack Sarah and attempt an escape. But her moment of liberation is fleeting as she finds herself confronted by Inazio, who menacingly points a gun at her. Faced with this new threat, Victoria, though initially stunned, quickly regains her composure. She boldly assesses the situation, concluding that Inazio is unlikely to pull the trigger. With this realization, she courageously continues her path forward, determined to find a way out of the perilous situation she finds herself in. This confrontation marks another intense moment in the unfolding drama within the restaurant, highlighting the characters' desperation, courage, and the unpredictable nature of their circumstances. The plot reaches a climactic and distressing moment when Victoria's boyfriend, witnessing the unfolding horror, hears a gunshot and is struck by a devastating realization. He understands, with a heart weighed down by sorrow, that Inazio has claimed Victoria's life. The agony of his loss echoes through the restaurant as he cries out her name, a mix of despair and disbelief in his voice. In the midst of this chaos, Sarah stands, momentarily paralyzed by the shock of what she has just seen. Despite the traumatic scene playing out before her, she somehow finds the strength to regain her composure, acting as though nothing out of the ordinary has happened. Inazio, on the other hand, maintains a chillingly calm manner, displaying a disturbing lack of remorse for the lives he has taken. The plot takes a bizarre turn as Sarah, seemingly under the influence of an unknown force, begins to exhibit increasingly strange behavior. Inazio instructs her to move Veronica's body, and she complies, dragging it to another room. After examining Veronica's lifeless form, Sarah emerges from the room transformed, her hairstyle altered and now dressed in Veronica's clothes. In a surreal twist, she begins to flirt with Inazio, and he reciprocally responds with a kiss, drawn into her strange allure. Meanwhile, the tension mounts as the other captives desperately try to escape their confinement. They struggle to free themselves from the plaster restraints, their efforts marked by a growing sense of urgency. 𝐂𝐤, overwhelmed by fear and frustration, lashes out with insults at Sarah when she enters the room to carry out Inazio's orders. Sarah, displaying a cold and unwavering resolve, forcefully drags 𝐂𝐤 and the remaining robber out of the room. She commands them to sit on chairs, their hands still bound, asserting control over the situation. The tension escalates as Inazio confronts one of the robbers. Inazio's anger boils over as he demands to know who the accomplice is. The robber, under immense pressure, accuses Sarah of being his partner in crime. Inazio, momentarily puzzled, glances at Sarah but sees nothing to confirm the robber's claim. His attention returns to the robber, his anger manifesting in a chilling act as he brandishes a knife. Sarah, a bystander in this unfolding horror, watches in disbelief and horror as Inazio brutally slits the robber's throat. The gruesome scene overwhelms her, driving her to the bathroom where she succumbs to nausea. Meanwhile, Inazio, undisturbed by the violence he has just inflicted, releases 𝐂𝐤, maintaining his eerily calm manner. The atmosphere in the restaurant is filled with tension and fear. Victoria's boyfriend, still restrained and powerless, witnesses the nightmare escalating around him. The reality of their situation is grim and fraught with danger, as the survivors grapple with the increasing violence. In this dire scenario, only 3 hostages remain. Inazio, who initially feared involving the police for a single death, now finds himself responsible for 3. One of the hostages, a previously aloof man, decides to use his past skills to attempt a mental manipulation on Inazio. He approaches Inazio with a calculated calmness, trying to psychologically compel him to surrender. However, Inazio is not easily swayed and responds with a gunshot, further cementing the sense of hopelessness among the remaining hostages, 𝐂𝐤 and Magno, Veronica's boyfriend. Sarah, meanwhile, is in front of a mirror when Inazio enters. He tells her he has something to show her, and as they leave the room together, she secretly arms herself with his gun. In a tense moment, she points the gun at Inazio, but in a twist of events, he manages to disarm her, taking their twisted relationship to another level. In the climactic moments of the story, the tension reaches a fever pitch in the Brazilian restaurant setting. Sarah, after briefly retreating to the bathroom, returns to find Magno seated in a chair that has become a symbol of death for many that evening. In a chilling turn of events, Inazio hands Sarah a gun and instructs her to continue the cycle of violence. Faced with the daunting task, Sarah hesitantly accepts the gun and aims it at Magno, who sits in fear, praying for his life. Despite her efforts to follow through with Inazio's demand, Sarah finds herself unable to commit the act. In a moment of defiance, she turns the gun towards Inazio instead. Inazio is taken aback by her betrayal, standing in shock as she pulls the trigger. However, the gun is empty, a cruel trick by Inazio. Seizing the opportunity, he overpowers Sarah, forcing her to the ground. Inazio then coldly executes Magno. The violence escalates further as Inazio brutally stabs Sarah in the stomach and then moves towards 𝐂𝐤, who is in another room. As the movie draws towards its conclusion, 𝐂𝐤 manages to free himself and leaves the restaurant, seemingly abandoning Inazio inside. However, he soon returns, calling out for Sarah and retrieving something necessary. In the final scenes, a dramatic and harrowing sequence unfolds. Sarah, wounded but alive, enters the room where Inazio lies. She approaches him and, in a disturbing display of affection, lies beside him. Then, with a grim resolve, she heads to the kitchen and returns with a knife in hand. In a shocking act of retribution, Sarah stabs Inazio multiple times. The film concludes with a haunting image of Sarah, naked and bloodied, cooking in the kitchen, encapsulating the film's themes of violence, betrayal, and the complex nature of human emotions in extreme circumstances. Did this story spook you out? Let us know in the comments below. For more horror movie recaps, subscribe to our channel and we will see you in the next one. Fear awaits you.